Happy Creole Day. Have you ever had acupuncture? Well, no. And how come, may I ask? Fear of needles. Well, the fear of needles is almost a universal fear. Acupuncture comes from the Latin for acu and well puncture. We have to puncture the skin. I studied acupuncture about 20 years ago in San Francisco, and what is interesting, although acupuncture originated in China, it is being advanced in other countries, France, United States, Korea, to be precise, are the leaders in acupuncture today. There were about 500 medical doctors in this huge hotel, and we spent several weeks studying the various aspects of acupuncture after a year of home study. And then came the time for us to practice the actual needling. We had to practice on foam animals, the exact technique. And then when time came, these doctors who in their training may have injected and drawn blood and started IVs on hundreds of patients. You should see them. It's like, oh, they were kind of a little bit scared of it at first, but the good news is they all got over it, just as I have. And to prove that, I'm going to put my body on the line for my intrepid and brilliant young intern to demonstrate acupuncture on me. Acupuncture began about 100 years ago in China, and 100 years before Christ, to be more precise. And so it's been around for a long time. And what happened is that there would a warrior would get shot with an arrow, and they would notice, let's suppose he had asthma, and that asthma went away. At first, it was thought to be just a coincidence, but over generations and centuries, that was documented, and they found out that if we actually stuck a needle in that particular spot, that this person's asthma would be relieved. And so it began after centuries that we have all these different points all over the body, 365 at least. And during that training, we had to memorize every single point and to be tested on it. Now, you cannot actually see acupuncture points. Every doctor who has MD, medical doctor after his name, you can be sure that that person, regardless of where they studied, spent a year learning every single bone, every single nerve, every single blood vessel from the top of the head to the sole of the feet. And even though they're in a specialty, let's say like psychiatry or radiology, where they may not even actually touch patients, they know where these nerves and blood vessels are. Now, I can tell you that when I was about 12 years old, I remember very distinctly, I had an itch in the back of my left shoulder there, and when I scratched it, I felt a sensation in the right leg, on the side of my right leg, and I said, wait a while, let me check that again. And every time I did it, it happened. And so maybe when you think back, there's certain sensations you have in one part of the body, and it generates a reaction in another part of the body. There are meridians in the body which are channels of energy. We cannot really see them. It's just like the equator. If you're flying over the equator, the pilot doesn't say, look down here, you can see that imaginary line. You can't see it. But it is real, because when you are exactly on the equator, you can balance an egg on its head, right there on the equator. If you flush a toilet bowl on that side of the equator, the water spins that way. If you flush a toilet bowl on just a few feet away on the other side of the equator, it spins in an opposite direction. So that's fascinating. So we cannot see meridians, we cannot see the energy, but sometimes maybe at a viewing funeral home, the person looks so real, so alive. You just say, well, I wish they would take one more breath. What is lacking is that life energy flowing through their system. And acupuncture, placing that needle in various points of the meridians, unblocks the energy and leads to natural healing. So all of you who are interested in lifestyle and natural herbal healing, acupuncture is really for you. I will close by saying this. When I was in college, didn't have a whole lot of money, and I came across a book called On Acupressure. And it fascinated me because I had studied all my mother's nursing books, and here's something that was promising to help relieve aches and pains without having to spend money on doctors. So I studied that, and then in my pre-med year, there was a small group, maybe about 8 of us in that small college in Georgia that I went to. And I remember one morning in the physics class, the professor was writing all these formulas on the board. I was sitting next to a tall, blonde, very attractive lady. She looked like a model, and I was the only black boy in the class. And she was just hicking away. Hip, hip, hip. It was so disturbing. So I told her, I can fix that. And she kind of looked at me like, what are you talking about? I've probably tried everything else. And I said, give me your hand. And she did. So I held her hand, and I want you to take note of this because you can practice this. It's on the back, the acupressure point for hiccups cure. The most effective hiccups cure is at the back of this middle finger. Okay, it has gotten a bad reputation, but the knuckle right here, right at the side of the knuckle, you press this area and you massage it firmly, circular motion for a few minutes. So there I am massaging her hand, and the professor turns back, and this is this boy from the islands holding the prettiest girl in the class, holding her hand, and his eyes said, but these boys from the islands are fast and bold. He didn't do an eye roll, but I kind of imagined it. And she was just turning red, like I was really embarrassing her. And he went back to his formulas. And all of a sudden she turned to me and she said, it's gone. It's gone. And I said, well, but of course. And that was acupressure. Acupuncture is a lot more effective. And there are several conditions. As a medical doctor, let's be clear, when there's an emergency, car ran down a precipice or something, they don't call an acupuncturist. You need medical doctors, you need the fire and ambulance service, rescue personnel, and you need accident and emergency intensive medical care. And I know that from experience. However, acupuncture is a very important, considered an alternative medicine or holistic medicine. And I have used acupuncture in my practice, and I've had great results with things like migraines and insomnia and anxiety, chronic pains, addictions, weight loss, and all different kinds of things like that. So as we go along in your health career, remember, we wish above all things that you may prosper and be in health. Part of the abundant life means utilizing the wisdom of the ages, wherever it comes from, that can help improve your life. So, if you'd like to consider acupuncture, if you'd like to overcome that fear of needles and do whatever it takes to be in the best of health, give us a call, 265-0886. Thank you.